The drive home that Friday evening felt painfully familiar. The steady hum of tires on pavement blended with a crackling old song on the radio, and the faint scent of coffee still clung to my clothes from earlier. Traffic moved at a crawl, punctuated by the occasional honk or an impatient driver weaving between lanes. The only thing keeping me sane was the thought of the weekend, 2 days away from emails, meetings, and deadlines. Earlier, Nicole, my wife of 9 years, had texted to ask what I wanted for dinner. I told her I didn't want anything fancy, just something warm and easy. Comfort food. Mac and cheese sounded perfect after the week I'd had. Stopped at a red light, my phone vibrated on the passenger seat. I picked it up with one hand, barely thinking. It was a message from Nicole, a photo. I opened it, and my breath caught. Smooth skin, the curve of a bare shoulder, a glimpse of lace. Before my mind could fully process what I was seeing, the image disappeared. 3 dots appeared, then a message. "Sorry, that wasn't meant for you." My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "Not meant for you." The words echoed in my head as my chest constricted. I typed back quickly, trying to sound calm, normal. What was that? The dots appeared again, then vanished, then returned. Seconds stretched uncomfortably long before her reply came through. Nothing. Just something personal. Forget it. Forget it. The phrase landed like a punch. My thoughts spiraled, heart pounding, questions crashing into each other. A loud horn blared behind me, snapping me back. The light had turned green. I tossed the phone onto the seat and pressed the gas, but my mind stayed stuck on that image, that sentence. If it wasn't meant for me, then who was it for? By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun was sinking low, casting long shadows across the yard. Warm light spilled through the windows, giving the house its usual golden glow, but this time it felt chajim, like something was off. Inside, Nicole was in the kitchen. Her hair was pulled into a loose, messy bun. She hummed softly as she moved around, not turning when I entered. "Hey," she said casually. "Dinner's in the oven. How was work?" "Fine," I replied, setting my things down, watching her back as she stirred something on the stove. I wanted to ask about the photo, about the message, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I grabbed a bottle of water and leaned against the counter. "And you?" I asked, forcing an easy tone. "How was your day?" She glanced over with a quick smile. "Busy. Meetings all day. You know how it is." Her phone lay face down on the counter beside her. My stomach twisted. "Anything interesting happen?" I pushed gently. She shrugged without looking at me. "Not really. Same old stuff." I wanted to believe her, to let it go, but the unease in my chest only tightened. I studied her movements, her calm voice, the practiced normalcy. When she finally looked at me again, her brow creased slightly. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied, managing a weak smile. "Just tired." That night, she fell asleep quickly. Her breathing slowed, steady and peaceful, while I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The image, the tone of her texts, the way she dismissed it all, it didn't add up. Something had shifted, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. The phone lay face down on the nightstand, silent, almost mocking me. A tight knot of anger and fear twisted in my chest, squeezing harder with every passing second. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, the weight of not knowing pressing down on me. I'd never been the type to snoop, to invade someone else's privacy, but this wasn't normal. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The feeling grew louder, impossible to ignore. Carefully, I eased myself out of bed, barely letting the mattress shift. Nicole stirred slightly, her hand brushing the blanket, but she didn't wake. I held my breath, reached for her phone, and slipped out of the bedroom. In the dim light of the living room, I sank onto the couch. The phone felt heavy in my hand, my palms damp, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Guilt washed over me. This felt like crossing a line, but the need for answers drowned everything else. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then unlocked it. She'd never changed her password. I scrolled through her apps, hands trembling. Everything looked clean. Too clean. Emails, social media, photos, all carefully curated. Nothing out of place. My stomach tightened as I opened her messages. Most of them were boring, normal. Friends, co-workers, routine conversations. Then I saw a name that didn't belong. Jake. No last name. At first glance, the messages seemed harmless, casual, friendly, but something about the tone felt off. I scrolled further until one line stopped me cold. Can't wait to shoot with you again next week. Let's go even hotter this time. My breath caught. I read it again, then again. I went back through the thread. Compliments about her energy, her confidence, references to dates, locations, roles. None of it made sense. Not until I tapped one message with a link. The page loaded slowly. For a split second, I tried to convince myself it was innocent, some kind of acting gig, a misunderstanding. That illusion shattered almost immediately. It was a polished, professional-looking website, but unmistakably adult. My hand shook as I scrolled, each movement feeling heavier than the last. A list of featured performers appeared. Then I saw her. Nicole. Her face stared back at me, wearing the same confident smile she'd given me just hours earlier in our kitchen. There was no doubt. My wife. My chest tightened as I opened her profile. The username was different, but it didn't matter. Video after video filled the screen. Dozens of them. My mind reeled as the truth settled in. Against my better judgment, I tapped one. The video started, and I knew instantly I'd made a mistake. Nicole was in a room I didn't recognize, surrounded by strangers. Her voice, her laughter, the way she moved, it was bold, unrestrained, nothing like the woman I thought I knew. She looked comfortable, confident, like this wasn't new. I shut the video off, my stomach turning violently, and dropped the phone onto the table as if it had burned me. I stood up, unsteady. The room spun. My knees felt weak, the air thick and suffocating. Everything I believed, our marriage, our life together, was collapsing in real time. Leaning against the wall, I tried to breathe, to make sense of what I'd just uncovered. Nicole, the woman I'd spent nearly a decade loving, and suddenly I didn't know her at all. The realization hit all at once. Every excuse I had accepted, every detail I had brushed aside, the late night, meetings, the unfamiliar perfume, the way she shut down my questions, came rushing back, now illuminated by a brutal clarity. This wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. A carefully constructed lie, exposed to the world with a few clicks. The phone vibrated on the coffee table, slicing through the heavy silence. I looked at the screen. Another message from Jake. You were amazing last time. Can't wait to work together again soon. My hands curled into fists. Heat surged through my chest. Anger, shame, heartbreak, all colliding at once. I forced myself to breathe, to slow my thoughts. Whatever I felt, one thing was undeniable. There was no going back. I couldn't unsee what I had found. I couldn't pretend this life still existed. The man I'd been an hour earlier, the husband who trusted without question, was gone. What remained felt hollow, barely holding itself together under the weight of what I now knew. I sank onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. The truth crashed over me in waves, and all the while Nicole slept peacefully just down the hall, unaware that everything she had hidden was unraveling. The house was unnervingly quiet, that deep, early morning stillness that presses in on you. The only sound was her steady breathing from the bedroom. It was infuriating. How easily she slept while my world had collapsed. I stared at her phone on the table. The chaos inside me slowly gave way to something colder, clearer. This wasn't a moment for shouting or dramatic confrontations. Nicole hadn't just lied. She'd built an entire parallel life, and I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of watching me break. I picked up the phone again, this time with steady hands. Screenshots, every message, every link, every detail that mattered. My stomach twisted as I worked, but I didn't stop. I sent everything to myself, making sure nothing could disappear with a deleted app or a sudden excuse. When I was done, I opened a drawer in the living room and pulled out a small box I'd bought years earlier and never thought I'd need. Basic surveillance gear, tiny cameras, discreet audio recorders, originally for security. Now they had a different purpose. I placed them carefully, methodically. Living room, kitchen, places where truth